17 mainstream media outlets covering Bitcoin mining in a very positive way. Welcome back to the Bitcoin Layer. I'm Nick Bhatia. In today's video, we will go through 17 examples of the mainstream media starting to embrace Bitcoin. This is a momentous change and something we've seen shift over the last 1 to 2 years. The inspiration for today's video comes from our friend Daniel Batten. You guys know Daniel quite well as he's made several appearances on the Bitcoin Layer. And Daniel, a tireless advocate for Bitcoin, someone who comes from an environmentalist background that has embraced Bitcoin for its potential change that it can make on the world, especially concerning energy consumption, renewable energy consumption, and electricity grid management. In this Bloomberg headline, Bitcoin miners draw from Iceland's surplus of renewable energy. Iceland has become a refuge for Bitcoin miners as energy costs soar and regulatory pressure on cryptocurrency operations mount in the US and other countries. The volcanic island runs almost entirely on hydroelectric and geothermal power that it historically creates a surplus of. Now, remember that geothermal energy and hydroelectric energy, these are energy sources which Bitcoin mining is gravitating toward because when we transport electricity across long distances, there can be significant loss. Bitcoin miners, however, are able to go to the source of the energy. And so when we look at El Salvador and the momentum around drawing volcanic geothermal power for Bitcoin mining, we can see some of that happening in other places around the world. In this article, Iceland. We have some great sponsors at the Bitcoin Layer, sponsors that are helping us deliver the highest quality research to you. But not just any sponsors. We want to bring on partners that are adding value to your Bitcoin process and journey. If you're serious about your Bitcoin, you need to start acting like it. Unchained just launched the Financial Freedom Bundle, a curated pack that includes a premium Bitcoin book, a new hardware wallet guide, and access to a private event with Tour de Meester. It's time to take control of your generational wealth. Make sure you go to unchained.com/TBL to request your financial freedom bundle. That's unchained.com/TBL. Blockstream, where the future of finance runs on Bitcoin. Go to store.blockstream.com and use code TBL for 10% off. Pick up a Jade Plus hardware wallet. It integrates seamlessly with your Blockstream app, and it's the perfect way for both pros and beginners of Bitcoin to get started with your cold storage. Store.blockstream.com, use code TBL for 10% off. Human Rights Foundation presents the Financial Freedom Report. Go to financialfreedomreport.org, sign up for the free newsletter today, and get involved in the freedom aspect of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a human right and it is evolving as such. Make sure to go to financialfreedomreport.org, sign up for their free newsletter, and learn all about how Bitcoin is at the cutting edge of providing people with human rights. Smart macro analysts don't just watch the Fed, they watch the world. Now, I will take a little bit of an issue with this part of the sentence that says, regulatory pressure on cryptocurrency operations mounting in the United States. In the United States, we are seeing positive developments on Bitcoin mining regulation, especially the right to mine being passed in individual states. So this is something we will continue to watch. However, in Europe, not the same necessarily, and in different places around the world, some governments are looking to restrict Bitcoin mining as it is imposing a strain on these electricity grids. But remember, Texas, being a good citizen of the grid, scaling back operations when there is a heat wave like we saw last week in the United States, a heat wave in Texas, increased demand on the electricity grid in Texas, and those Texan miners taking miners offline, supporting electricity consumption for the citizenry of Texas. And we actually saw a downward adjustment in difficulty expected due to that occurrence. This one comes from Reuters. Crypto miner Mara taps U.S. shale patch in new power generation project. Mara, formerly Marathon, is a company that we are also very familiar with. We've had Fred Thiel, CEO of Marathon, on a couple times on TBL. This article is about how Mara is going to fuel a 25 megawatt mining operation with excess natural gas. CEO Fred Thiel says AI demand makes it hard for Bitcoin miners to compete for electricity. Mara's process captures gas that would have been flared, getting carbon credits. So remember here that there are a couple things at play. Number one, gas flaring is a good source of energy for Bitcoin mining. Once again, Bitcoin miners can go to the source, and this gas is flared. Why? Because when oil producers are drilling, gas is released via that process. And if that gas goes into the environment, it can be harmful. And so environmental regulations require that U.S. producers of oil that have gas that is being released into the environment, that gas is flared. That means burned. That therefore the gas doesn't release as harmful as chemicals into the environment. And so gas flaring is mandated. Now, Bitcoin miners have looked at those gas flaring operations and seen free energy for them, or cheap energy, because that gas is otherwise wasted, just burned off into the environment. And so Bitcoin miners are going to the source. We know that Shell and ExxonMobil have both been experimenting with this type of Bitcoin mining. So it is not a surprise to see Bitcoin miners, especially publicly traded ones, go to the source of the energy. Now, Fred makes an important point here. Fred Thiel says that AI demand makes it hard for Bitcoin miners to compete for electricity. Why is this the case? Because AI, in the current wave of AI, where is all of that information being processed when you go to ChatGPT and type in your question about how to boil an egg or plan your vacation itinerary? That information flies around the world, and it goes through a process which we are calling AI compute. This is computation. This is chips running the AI models and spitting out that answer to you. That generation is a strain on electricity consumption, and it is also the reason why NVIDIA has propelled itself to one of the largest companies on the planet, as NVIDIA is the maker of a lot of these chips that are doing AI generation. So we now see Bitcoin miners competing with AI generation for electricity. This can and will drive up the price of electricity, especially for areas that are near AI computation facilities. So Bitcoin miners have to avoid that increase in cost by either going to a different jurisdiction or meshing with the process of AI compute. That is something we are seeing many publicly traded Bitcoin miners do. They're starting to do a dual operation, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. They have both chips in the same facility. When one is more profitable, they turn the other off, for example. The third article here is from BBC, Bitcoin in the Bush, the crypto mine in remote Zambia. This is another story that we have been covering at the Bitcoin layer, the use of hydroelectric power, or even the build out of hydroelectric power in remote parts of Africa to harness water-induced energy to mine Bitcoin, but not just to mine Bitcoin, but also to participate in a win-win situation for these African villages. Many of them have not had reliable electricity sources, and now with these Bitcoin mining operations, African villages are receiving electricity from the small hydroelectric facilities that are being built by the Bitcoin miners. Phillips Mine is plugged directly into a hydroelectric power plant that channels some of the Zambezi's torrent through enormous turbines to generate continuous clean electricity. Number 4, and we've had Adam Pompescu on the show before. Guerrillas, militias, and Bitcoin: why Congo's most famous national park is betting big on crypto. In an attempt to protect its forests and famous wildlife, Virunga has become the first national park to run a Bitcoin mine. And this article comes from the MIT Technology Review. It's from 2023. And remember, this is something that we will continue to see. Places around the world that would have never thought about using Bitcoin mining are now using Bitcoin mining for a use other than just generating profit. For example, in this national park, the money that is coming into the Bitcoin miners is being profit shared with the park so that they can support defense against poachers. This is something that we would have never thought, that Bitcoin mining is helping African national parks combat poachers against wildlife. Bitcoin is changing the world in ways that we could have never imagined before. The fifth story here, this one comes from Al Jazeera. Can Bitcoin save Bhutan's struggling economy? Amid a brain drain and economic woes, Bhutan has used cryptocurrency to double the salaries of its civil servants. And this article comes from April of this year. For years, Bhutan has measured its economic and social development using uncommon currencies, happiness, and sustainability. But amid growing economic pains and a brain drain, the small landlocked Himalayan kingdom is adopting a new emblem of progress, which is propelling Bhutan to a leading role globally in embracing financial innovation, Bitcoin. Bhutan's hydropower plants fuel supercomputers that solve complex problems to be rewarded with Bitcoin. It's just a simple strategic choice that many people have made and earned billions of dollars, and I think governments should do it, Bhutanese Prime Minister said and told Al Jazeera. So governments, it's not just individuals, it's not just corporate projects, but entire governments are using Bitcoin mining to sustain and promote development within their borders. Bhutan using that excess profit to increase the salaries of its civil servants. The sixth story here, this one is from CNBC, how a Jack Dorsey-backed Bitcoin miner uses a volcano in Kenya to turn on the lights in rural homes. So Gridless, a second article here about Gridless, operates Bitcoin mines in Kenya, Malawi, and Zambia. The company's Bitcoin mine in Kenya near an extinct volcano has powered 5,000 households in the country. So even an extinct volcano is still going to throw off geothermal energy. That geothermal energy is being harnessed not just to mine Bitcoin. This is the key. It's powering 5,000 households. So this type of win-win situation, we mentioned Texas and the grid and being a good citizen of the grid. Bitcoin miners are trying to show the world, show governments, show individual communities that we can be a good citizen, not just an energy hog. Remember, I'm not trying to single out AI compute here, but people are using AI 24 hours a day around the world. This is not something that the users of AI are going to willingly say, I'm not going to look this up on ChatGPT today because of the strain on the energy grid. Bitcoin miners can. It's not that every Bitcoin miner is going to be selfless and want to give back energy to the grid. However, we are seeing a lot of that ethos start to develop around the world, not just in Texas, not just in Kenya, but all around the world. Number 7, this is an article from thestreet.com, why Bitcoin is key to the future of finance and renewable energy. And this is an article that goes into the relationship between Bitcoin energy consumption and the electricity grid. He explained how miners can efficiently move power onto and off the grid, helping to prevent brownouts and blackouts, particularly in regions facing extreme weather conditions. In this one from the Financial Times about the use of fossil fuels, Daniel Batten points out that the FT is flagging how Bitcoin can push beneficial environmental and social outcomes. In this 9th article from Forbes from a couple years ago, JP Morgan also contributing to the world of digital assets in its research and some of its technology projects, even though JP Morgan, not a huge fan of Bitcoin itself, but really trying to embrace this idea that technology is changing the way that people are dealing with financial services. Here's yet another article about the African villages that are participating in Bitcoin mining projects. Remote Bitcoin mine generates buzz for its unconventional setup. Completely changed the lives of people here. And again, this is about Zambia. This is coverage from MSN. And the next article, number 11 from Yahoo Finance, Marathon, once again, Mara here. Marathon Digital sees shift in Bitcoin mining industry dynamics with energy producers and renewable energy. This one from Unheard, a really excellent online news source. The African village mining Bitcoin. Cryptocurrency can be a liberating force. So this is about a village, an area of Africa called Bondo. Bondo is a scattered cluster of villages in a remote region of Malawi near the border with Mozambique. It sits in the foothills where residents rely on their feet for transport and a few crops to feed their families. So Bitcoin, again, is involved in a mini hydro scheme. So it's 3 turbines installed in a mini hydro scheme exploiting the fertile regional rainfall. So we get rainfall, water flow. It's not like we need an enormous hydroelectric dam. They can build these mini hydro facilities with 3 small turbines. And in that way, you have this mini electricity grid. Now, if these villages are consuming the power and it is changing their lives, and then there's excess power, that is where the win-win situation happens, and Bitcoin miners can go in and generate profit. Now, I want you guys at home to challenge yourselves. Don't just take my word for it that these Bitcoin miners are coming in, providing electricity, and then profiting second. You need to use your own judgment to see, hey, are these Bitcoin miners coming in for a true win-win in which they can help these African villages get electricity, access to electricity for the first time? Or is it pure exploitation, the miners coming in and basically stealing the natural resource of these villages, being the rainfall and the potential to generate hydroelectric power? That is only for you to decide. We are presenting you some mainstream media articles that have started to shift the other way, away from the idea that Bitcoin mining is bad and harmful to the environment. Now we're getting narratives that Bitcoin mining can be helpful to communities and doesn't necessarily have to be bad for the environment, as it can be based off of renewable energy. So again, that is for you guys to decide. The Hill says Bitcoin mining is energizing sustainability through green innovation. And this is, again, about the idea that Bitcoin mining is trying to go to the cheapest source of power. And oftentimes that cheap source of power can be quite inexpensive, but it's quite inexpensive because the miners themselves are participating in technology development that harnesses renewable energy in a new, innovative, and less expensive way. This one from Euronews.com, again about Bhutan, said that Bhutan has secretly mined Bitcoin in the Himalayas for years and did it sustainably. So this is also very interesting to us that Bhutan was mining Bitcoin in secret. This is something that we might have been witnessing in different regimes around the world, that mining Bitcoin is a way for these countries to participate in the financial universe without necessarily showing its hand. All right, the last few for you here. Fox Business says U.S. solidifying itself as a Bitcoin mining hub. This is an article from just a couple months ago. In North America, U.S. accounts for 75% of total reported Bitcoin mining. That doesn't surprise us, as there are only 3 countries in North America. But what we really want to see here is that the annual electricity usage tied to Bitcoin mining saw a 17% year-over-year jump. and it is now 0.54% of global electricity consumption. So, and electricity is 80% of the bill of the operating expenses for these Bitcoin miners. So, Bitcoin miners are going to the sustainable energy sources, including wind and hydropower, 9.8% using nuclear power. This is something that we'll probably see continue and grow over the coming decade. The penultimate article here is once again about Bhutan, this time from the Wall Street Journal. A remote Himalayan kingdom bet big on Bitcoin mining. So far, it has paid off. And so this article from just a couple days ago is showing how Bitcoin mining and the bet that Bhutan made is really paying off, as opposed to a couple years ago. The articles are about how Bhutan was mining Bitcoin in secret, but not really showing that material benefit yet. As time goes on, the early decisions to start mining Bitcoin are looking smarter and smarter. Last but not least, The Independent says Bitcoin mining could supercharge transition to renewables, a study claims. So we want to give a special thank you to Daniel Batten for always covering these types of news items as they come out. He's focused not only on Bitcoin progressing toward renewable energy and a more sustainable relationship with communities, but he is trying to combat the propaganda coming out of different parts of the world, specifically some of the studies from the European Central Bank, the Dutch Central Bank, and other European financial bodies that are trying to dismiss Bitcoin as a harmful technology, as an energy hog, and as a threat to governments. Bitcoin is not a threat to the community at large. It can be associated with renewable energy and helping communities, and that is something very promising that we want to continue to watch for in Bitcoin. Thanks for sticking with us this time. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, rate and review on your favorite audio platform, and if you are interested in the next level of quantitative research, thebitcoinlayer.com/subscribe. We'll catch you guys next time.